All right, so I think I've already said good morning, but I'll say it again. Again, we thank you for joining us today. We truly appreciate it. And so today, so first I'll start with, my name is Jasmine Anderson, and I am the operations manager with the Zan Wesley Holmes Junior Community Outreach Center. And we do a host of things at our center, but one of the things that we do, especially since the pandemic has hit, is that we've transitioned to a virtual platform where we've been able to do our lunch and learns. So we've covered multiple topics. We've discussed social media, marketing, business entities, how to market yourself. And this here is a part of our job readiness boot camp, I guess you can call it. And so we've covered resumes, as well as we've covered how to do the online interview. And so today we're going to cover the online application, and also how to do that job search. And so as I go through this, some of this information may be very basic and elementary. So and if any point you have more specific questions, please let me know, because we try to cover I try to cover a broad range of information, because I know everyone is kind of different inside that process. Some are a little bit more advanced, and they're looking for more pro tips, versus others are at the very, fundamental stages, which is completely fine. And they're trying to get acclimated to this online system that a lot of companies have transitioned to as well. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started here. And at any point, like I said, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat while I'm presenting. And then Audrey, if you don't mind, if you could man the chat and just let me know if anyone has any questions, just jump in and interrupt me at any time. So that way I can make sure that I get to it so I won't forget it, because my memory can be terrible. And then, or you're more than welcome to jot your questions down, and then we can have a Q&A at the end as well. So first things first is get your resume, cover letter, and your LinkedIn ready. And I think we have been beating this like a dead horse. Because like I said, we've done a resume class. And then I know the lady who covered how to do an online interview. She discussed the resumes, and I'm going to touch on that as well. And the only reason that we talked about them so much is because they're extremely instrumental in not even just moving to this online virtual platform, but just in the job hunting process. So, but I'm going to be very brief and just talk about a couple of things that I know that I do myself, that I've learned as I've gone throughout the job searching process, that I think that people may find to be beneficial to them as well. So, take your time and tailor your resume and your cover letter to the position that you're applying for. And what I mean by that is that I have probably 10 different resumes, because as you create job history, you'll notice that you don't always do the same exact things. You don't always work in the same industry. You don't always have the same positions, as well as there may be what you did may be multi-tiered. So even though maybe you were called a data analyst, maybe for the position that you're looking for, they're looking for specialists. So maybe you need to tweak the name of the position some, as well as you need to highlight different areas. So if you worked in different industries, so let's say if you worked in you had a background in office administration, but then you left that for a little while and you did quality assurance for a warehouse. Well, depending on the job that you're applying for, that quality assurance may not be relevant for the position that you're applying for. And you want to make sure that you keep your resume to about just one page. So you may want to omit that and take that off of your resume. And you just want to highlight the positions that are relevant for what you're applying for. As well as with the cover letter, you want to make sure that you are tailoring it. So inside the cover letter is your first presentation before they even get to the resume. So not only do you want it to be well written and eloquent, so you can write one cover letter and use the same template for each one, which is what I typically would do, but I would change different things. Like, so I'll make sure that I indicate inside my cover letter what position I'm applying for. I will make sure that I indicate 3 things that make me most qualified for the position. So if I'm applying for let's say to be an operations manager, then I'm going to include inside my cover letter 3 details as to why I should be their operations manager based off of the experience that I have. And that's why I say with the inspiration from LinkedIn, because a lot of the times you can, to tailor the resume and the cover letter, you can go to LinkedIn, look for people that have had that position, especially if you can find it at that organization or something similar to that position, either in that organization or maybe a competitor, and then just kind of take inspiration from that when you're drafting your resume. What type of names are they using? What type of names are they using to identify the positions? What type of descriptions are they using to describe what their roles are inside of the company? So draw from that when you're drafting your cover letter and putting in those details of why you're the perfect candidate for the position. Draw from that information when you're redrafting your resume to fit for this company. And then also in my cover letter, I also like to always include a bit of history about the organization. This here just lets them know, one, that you've gone the extra mile to research the organization, but it also gives a personal touch and helps you stand out among the crowd. So I go to their website and I quickly just kind of look, maybe like, when were they created? What is their mission statement? Something very simple. And I just be like, I would love to work for this company because their mission statement is, and I'll use ours, because you all create sustainable pathways out of poverty for families in Dallas. And that's something that I have held, true to my heart my entire life. And I would love to work with an organization like this or similar to this. And then I'll go into what I've done to support that statement I just made. That's why not only did I went to school and I graduated from, the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, and I had a bachelor's in, nonprofit management. And then from there, I used that education to go back to my own community, Memphis, and I worked with Fraser CDC, and I worked with Bridges, and I worked with these other companies where I was able to learn the importance of, helping my in creating income, helping them create income, and the importance of creating that income so that way it can later support their community, so that way they can thrive and support. And I'm just pulling some stuff from thin air, so don't take that verbatim, but that's typically what my cover letter would look like. And then I end it in something very basic, like I appreciate you all for allowing me to apply for this position. And so that's what I have there, with the incorporate information about the company and the job description into the letter. All right, and then just a couple of LinkedIn tips. Make sure that you have a professional picture in your profile. So the picture that we have some multi-generations here. So typically, probably the picture that you're using on your Facebook probably will not work. So make sure that it's like a white background, or it could just be, it could be like a tree or something like that. But just make sure that it's a simple background. Make sure that you're smiling in the picture, and make sure that you are dressed professional and that it's a clean environment around you. Always write a meaningful headline. So the headline is going to be probably something similar to what your objective is on your resume. Because a lot of the times we typically lose people's attention. I don't have the scientific number on this, but I want to say within 6 to 30 seconds, you lose a person's attention. So it's important, and people tend to engage longer when they see pictures and videos. So that's why it's important to have a nice picture there, as well as it's important to have that meaningful headline, because if you don't gather their attention from the very beginning, then more than likely you're going to lose it, or they won't even look at the rest of your LinkedIn page. Then the next portion of your LinkedIn page is going to be your career history. Treat that like your resume. So this is where you want to list all of the different roles and industries that you worked in, as well as what those time frames were and the descriptions. And again, when in doubt, you can draw inspiration from other people's LinkedIn page that have worked in similar positions, because writing is not everyone's forte. And just because that's not your forte doesn't mean that you need to forfeit the position that you're interested in. And then also get endorsements. So this is something when you create your LinkedIn page or anytime you make changes to it, a lot of the times those people that follow you on LinkedIn, they get an opportunity to send you an endorsement or even write you a recommendation. Those are important because in a world of it's not what you know, but who you know, typically sometimes when people see those endorsements, that allows them to know that one, you've actually done the things that you said here. So it's kind of like a badge with BBB. Like, oh, okay, it's reputable. Because you can go on here and write anything. You can write that you are the CEO of a Fortune 500 company and no one's going to stop you. The question is, are they going to believe you? And that's where the endorsements and the recommendations come in. So they're not necessary, but they are a great benefit to have. And sometimes you can ask people to endorse your page. So that way you're able to draw off of their credibility. Same thing, you can ask people to write you recommendations. And so, and in the recommendations, you'll be like, hey, I worked with Jasmine. She was a great employee, hard worker, this, that. You know, all those things that someone that's looking for a new employee would want to see. You can even get friends and family members to actually go on there and write there. And then also, you want to make sure that you keep your education up to date. So if you're currently enrolled in any type of program, whether it's a skills training program, community college, technical school, master's program, doctorate, make sure that you keep that information up to date. So LinkedIn is not one of those things you create once and then you never have to go back to, like your Facebook profile. You have to make sure that you keep your LinkedIn page, you're steadily refreshing it to meet what you're currently doing. And not only is that important because people are consistently looking at your LinkedIn page, but recruiters a lot of the time go to LinkedIn to find workers or to find potential employees. And when they do that, they use filters. So they may be like, hey, depending on what the position is, you know, like when you see their qualifications or the requirements, if a master's is a requirement, you want to make sure that you fall inside that criteria or that you fall inside that filter when they do it. So if you do have your master's, you need to make sure that you list that. Or if you're currently enrolled into a master's program, you need to make sure that you list that. So that way, when those recruiters go on there and they do that filter, they'll be able to see your profile and they'll be able to reach out to you. So it's very important to keep that up to date. And not to mention, it's even more important to make sure that you have one. So if you do not have a LinkedIn page because you thought that it was unnecessary or you thought that nothing could possibly come from it, please go and make one. It's extremely easy and simple, especially if you already have your resume created. It's just a lot of copy and paste from that point. And then, like I said, it's going to automatically tell people that you're friends with that you've created a LinkedIn page. And then from there, those people can go and make endorsements and they can go and make recommendations. And then you'll notice that you may start receiving emails from people saying, hey, saw your profile on LinkedIn. I have this position that's available. Tell me if you're interested. Check this out. As well as you'll be able to do the same vice versa. You'll be able to use LinkedIn as a tool to go and research other companies or research current or research positions that you're interested in, or even send a message to the HR manager or to someone that works inside the company. And I'll go a little bit more in depth on that further along in the presentation. And then I just have a pro tip here. Go that extra mile. So when they say, when you're doing an online application and they allow you to upload your resume and your cover letter, or they just make the resume required, but not the cover letter, go ahead and make sure that you include that cover letter. Show them that you are willing to go the extra mile. And depending on what job you're applying for, go ahead and write, if you know that the job requires a lot of writing, go ahead and upload some writing samples. If you know that the job will require a lot of Excel work, go ahead and upload an Excel sheet to show maybe that you are good at pivot charts and that that you're familiar with something. If it requires finances, go ahead and include a budget sheet or checks and balances or a balance sheet. So that way they can understand that you already have some familiarity with that particular topic or subject. And they may not even look at it, but just the fact that you uploaded it not only shows that you're confident in your experience. It also shows that you do have experience, and it also shows that you're willing to go the extra mile and you're trying to make yourself stand out from the crowd, because just as you saw that job opportunity, thousands of other people or hundreds of other people saw that job opportunity as well. And like I said, anyone can write whatever they want to lie about the positions that they've had or lie about the experience that they had. But if you're able to show proof of it, it also just shows more credibility. All right, so now we're going to discuss searching for that job. So I know, and like I said, I know we have some different ages on here. So some people may be very familiar with searching for jobs online, and I know some may be very at the beginning stages here. So I'm going to kind of go through this one kind of fast. And if you have further questions, let me know. If you're more comfortable with asking those off screen, then I'll be more than glad to, take some time to speak with you then. But please feel comfortable inside this setting to ask whatever it is that you need to know, because we are recording this. And I'm saying that because you may have a question that someone else has. And so it's important to make sure that you ask those questions, because as my mom always told me, there's no such thing as a dumb question other than the ones that aren't asked. Because if you don't know, you don't know. So some great places to look for jobs are ZipRecruiter, Indeed, Monster, Glassdoor, and of course there are a million other places. The most popular one, in my opinion, is Indeed. And that's because you can really filter out what you're looking for. And we'll follow this link and I'll show you what I mean. And then also Facebook jobs has become extremely popular, especially for those smaller companies. They transitioned to Facebook versus Craigslist. And I'll just show you some of the jobs that are on there. So let's see here, make sure if it goes. All right, can y'all see this Indeed page? Just shake your head or give me a thumb or something. Can y'all see this? Y'all can't see it? Okay, hold on. Let me see if I can go back to my. Hold on, y'all. This big. All right, so I'm going to stop the share and then I'm going to share that page. Is that it? All right, so this here is the Indeed page. Can everyone see this now? Thumbs up. Y'all still can't see the Indeed page? Can anyone? All right, y'all still can't see it. Y'all can now? Okay.
I can see it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so on here, this here is the what. So this is where you'll type in the job title that you're looking for. So let's say if you've been a secretary your whole life and that's what you want to continue to do, then by all means, that's what you'll put there. If there's a company that you've been interested in working for your entire life, just because you've heard that they have great benefits, let's say like FedEx or St. Jude, then that's where you'll type the company name right there. Or just like I said, or keywords. So it's like, I just want to work in administration. You don't necessarily know at what capacity yet, but you just want to do administration, then that's where you'll put that. And then of course, where you can put the city or state, or you can even put a zip code if you like. Let's see here. So I'm just going to put in operations manager. And you'll see some different suggestions. And then Forwarding, Texas, because that's where I stay. And then you search. And then if you're not logged in on Indeed, then they're going to try to get you to log in. They're going to try to get you to sign up if you don't have one. And the benefit of actually registering on Indeed is, one, they can send you emails when there are certain jobs that you're interested in when they become available, because it's the first come first serve thing, because lots of people get this information. So it's imperative that you apply in a timely fashion as soon as the position becomes available, because once you fall down deep in that queue, the opportunity or the chance of them seeing you have become more and more slim. So let's see here. So you see branch operations manager. I'm just going to kind of peruse through here. Security operations manager. And anytime it's going to be a short application, you're going to see the words here, easily apply. When you see that easily apply, that means it's going to be a short, quick, and simple. Probably ask you 5 questions and attach your resume. And if you already have an Indeed account, then your resume will already be attached, so you won't even have to do that additional work. If you don't see easily apply, then more than likely it's going to be a more lengthy application, and they're probably going to actually take you off the Indeed site and onto their physical website itself. So you see here, like this branch operations manager with Pure Watercraft, you can apply on company site. And anytime you see where there's an opportunity to apply on the company site or apply through Indeed, go through the company site, because they don't always remember that they created the Indeed account. So they don't always go back and look at those. So, or if it's quick and easy, do both. I've done both, especially if it's a position that you're really interested in. All right, and then you can filter exactly what type of job you're looking for. So here, this is mileage, so within how many miles of where you're currently applying for. In the day and age of remote work, this is where you'll put that here. So temp, if you want something that's just remote while COVID is going on, or if you want something that's remote full-time, then that's where you'll filter that out. And then you have salary estimates. So depending on how much you're in, that you are willing to work for. So you'll put what your, what your minimum salary would be, and then it'll just have that salary and then upwards. So if you know that you want to be an operations manager, but you don't intend on working for less than $30,000, then this is where you'll put that information. And then full-time, part-time contracts. And contract is really what a lot of jobs are going to. So just remember to kind of keep that in mind. And a contract has its drawbacks, but it does have its pros, because that means that you can work for more than one company. So you can definitely broaden your income by being a contractor sometimes, because you can go and work for this company, that company, and this company, as long as there's as long as you don't sign a non-compete disclosure. You can even do it inside this same industry, especially if you're working from home and you're working remote. You can work multiple jobs, so that way you can make even more money. And then of course here we're talking about the location, company, and this is if you want to specifically, like I said, work for company. And then let's just say here experience, depending on how long you've been doing or working inside the industry that you're interested in. And then once you get through with all those filters, then it's going to only show the relevant positions for what you're looking for. And you can also even filter easy apply. You would just put that into the what, if you say operations manager, and then you can just say easy apply, then it's only going to pull up the ones that have the easy apply. Well, most of the time, some of these didn't. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen again, and then we're going to go back to the PowerPoint. So I'm going to be doing this a couple of times, because it looks as if the links don't show up until I share them specifically. Oh, let's see. Or can I just do all? I feel like I may be able to just share my screen. Okay, can y'all still see this Indeed? Stands up? Okay, thank you. Okay, perfect. So it looks as if I can move it around. All right, and then this here is just so we can look at what the Facebook jobs looks like. Same thing, if you want to do filters, this over there to the side. Location is right here. This is where you'll search specifically if there's a certain type of job that you're looking for. If you even want to create a job, then you can do it through here as well. And I believe it's free to create jobs through here, but it is definitely free to apply for jobs through here. And as you can see, from what I'm seeing, a lot of these are more personalized jobs. So like a candle maker, leasing consultant, photo booth attendant, stuff like that. All right, and then another great opportunity to get your foot in the door is to apply through a temp agency. So Robert Half is a professional temp agency, but then you do have other ones like Randstad, Adecco, different things like that, depending on what you're looking for. And if you go to a lot of these temp jobs, sometimes they have temp to hire. So you may go in as a temp, but then if you go in and do what you're supposed to do and work good and show great charisma and initiative, then they may actually hire you for that position and hire you on full time. So a lot of the times, especially with these larger companies that don't have a lot of time to put towards recruiting, and even smaller companies too that can afford to hire a temp agency on, they go through these. So you can find some really good, so I know at one point in time there was a negative stigma with going through a temp agency, but you can find some really good job opportunities and companies by taking advantage of this approach. Now, I wouldn't try this approach if you already have you a full-time job with benefits. I wouldn't suggest this. But if you are in the job searching process and you're currently not working, going that temp to hire route is a great way. And if anyone needs me to show them how to kind of go through this process, I'll be more than glad. But it's pretty straightforward. You're going to create a profile. Once you create the profile, you'll upload that resume that we keep talking about, and then you'll search for jobs just as you would as we did on Indeed. And you'll see who's currently hiring. And this here will give you typically a quicker turnaround. And then you may even get a recruiter who will keep your information on file. So that way, when they do see something that comes around that's inside your wheelhouse, they'll reach out to you personally and ask you, are you interested in something? So that sometimes it's like also it's having an assistant help you look for a job, because their job is to get you a job. So they do have intentions of trying to get you inside of a position, because if they can't get those positions filled, then they can lose those contracts. So they have just as much as an incentive to get you inside the position as you do yourself. So you want to make sure that you stay in front of their face, consistently send them emails. You don't want to get on their nerves, but you want to almost get on their nerves, because when something comes around that's inside your wheelhouse, they are guaranteed to call you, because they are tired of you emailing them. They are tired of you calling them, and they can't wait to put you to work if you are qualified. So get on their nerves. Be a pest when it comes to the temp agency, because they see so many people a day that it's easy to get lost in the shuffle with them. And like I said, emails are effective with them because they're consistently checking their emails. So you don't have to always go down there and show up in their face. Just emailing and calling is a presence as well. And then network inside groups on Facebook. So especially if you have a small business, or let's say you have a hustle or something like that, and you're looking and you're in between jobs, or you're looking to try to grow something while you're at your job, and you're trying to get it off the ground, a great way is to join a Facebook group. So I'm inside several different Facebook groups for several different reasons. And I'm inside this small business networking group because I like to sometimes post our lunch and learns in here, because like I said, you have people in here that are looking to grow and scale their companies forward. And so they could use this literature or use this information, as well as people use it as an opportunity to promote their business. So if they're looking for, if you're looking to get some work done, this is a great way or a great place to go. As well as if you're looking for something. So let's say I'm looking for an accounting position, you can post that, and then you'll have people that'll comment underneath it saying, hey, my uncle is hiring an accountant. Send the email here and let them know that I sent you, or something like that. As well as you may see where people will put actual job postings on here. and then you can, just apply for however they tell you to do that. So I love using these Facebook groups to find not only people that can perform services, but to also find potential people to collaborate with and network with, and just to kind of have inside my Rolodex. So I highly encourage you to definitely join some of these. And again, inside of COVID, a lot of it is online. They may even have some online Zoom meetings where it's an opportunity to network with other people and to really not only to show your face and show your personality behind your name. So again, because everything is about setting yourself apart from the crowd, because you have to understand that many people are applying for these positions. And if you can get in good with an HR person that works there, or someone that just works inside that company or inside that industry that can rally and stand behind your name and endorse you, or get your application pulled, that's what you're looking for. Because doing the application is just the first part of it. The next part is to get it pulled. And there's different things you can do to get it pulled, but having someone on the inside is the best way to do that. And to do that, you can go to LinkedIn to find people and try to start networking and talking to them. As well as you can go on Facebook, join these Facebook groups and start, like I said, talking and networking with people for those that aren't going outside to these different networking events. And then also keywords. I think I forgot to mention that, but keywords are important because a lot of companies now, especially if it's a larger company, they don't have time to go through 1,000 different resumes, 1,000 different applications. So they're just putting in filters. They're putting in what exactly they're looking for, and then that's going to give them their first crop of people. And then after that, they're looking for certain keywords inside the your descriptions, inside those resumes. So again, like I said, they're not physically reading them themselves. So that's why getting the verbiage correct inside the resume and the cover letter is so important, because you may have specialists on there. And if they say that they're looking for analysts, the specialists and the analysts may be very well doing the same job. But because you have specialists and not analysts, and they put in a filter that only looked for analysts, you have now taken yourself out of a job that you are qualified for. So that's why it's important to do your due diligence and go on their LinkedIn pages, go on their website, see what they're naming their positions, see what words they're using, use the words that they put inside the description for the job that you can find on the website. Look for the words that community or that culture is using to make sure that you have it inside of your resume and cover letter. So that way, when they do that filter, you are included in it because you are qualified and you do have the experience, and you just want to make sure that you are using the right words, because you don't want to disqualify yourself over something so simple. All right. All right, and then now we'll fill out the entire job application. So those easy apply links are nice and quick. I love them myself personally, but sometimes they can be scams. So you do have to be wary of that, and I'll go a little bit more in depth on what to kind of look for when it comes to scams. And sometimes they can lead to longer applications, so just be conscious of that. So just to kind of show you what an easy apply looks like, so I know I kind of touched on it, where it says apply now, and it has easily apply. Press apply now, and then it's just as simple. First name, last name, email, phone number. You'll put your resume. If you already have a Indeed profile, then your resume will already be attached. Like I said, you can check this box to notify you about similar positions, so that way they can email you, so that way you can be one of the first ones. And you see here that the cover letter is not mandatory, it's optional. But again, like I said, go that extra mile and go ahead and attach it and do your due diligence in applying. Even on the easy applies, go ahead and tailor that cover letter to that company. Make sure that you've tailored your resume to that company. It can definitely make it more lengthy and it can be more tedious, but the more time that you put into tailoring your tailoring for a certain position, the better you are increasing your chances to actually get the position. And then you just press continue, and then after that, it just go ahead and submit. And then they may ask you qualifying questions sometimes, like, Have you worked inside of, how much experience, how many years of experience have you had inside your job? What level of what's your highest level of education? How old are you, or something like that? I don't know. But they sometimes do ask qualifying questions, and you'll answer those questions. And then if you do qualify, then it'll take you to the longer application, which you'll typically find on their website. So just be conscious that sometimes this is just the first level. A lot of the times if you qualify, or if they like what they see on your resume, then they'll send you to actually apply on their website. They just don't, it saves you time because you don't have to apply if they're not even interested, because those longer applications can take more time. But then also it saves them time from having to go through the process of looking at it, knowing that they have no intentions of hiring you. All right, and then for the longer applications, generally allows a recruiter to identify your best candidates. So even though they're long and they get on our nerves, and I absolutely hate them myself because they do take a lot of time and they can be a bit more tedious, but it helps the recruiter identify, like it says, the best fit candidates. So you're really taking this opportunity to set yourself out a little bit further, because anybody can go on there and put their name, number, email address. But everyone's not going to do their due diligence in not only completing the application in its entirety when it's longer, but also making sure that they fill it out correctly and that they're using important information. And let's see here. And then I have format, because I know sometimes, especially with doing online applications, things have to be in certain formats or it won't allow you to go to the next page. And I know that can be annoying, especially if you're almost through with it. But just make sure that they tell you different things. So just make sure that you take your time and you really look. And I'll show you an example of some formatting mistakes. But then a pro tip here is to save your information in a Word document. So that way you can copy and paste it into your application. So a lot of the jobs, they ask for the same exact thing. And a lot of the times it's pretty much the same. Like I said, you may have to tailor it and tweak it some. But for the most part, you should just be able to, I save everything on Word. So I have what jobs are, the company names. I have their address, because a lot of times they ask for their address. I have when I started there and when I stopped there. So I'll have the month and the year, because they ask that a lot of the times. As well as I'll have a job description. Like I said, I normally have bullet points, but I have heard that they're trying to actually kind of go back to summaries. So use your own personal discretion with that. And then I normally will keep who was my supervisor at the time on there, and I'll put their contact information on there. And I'll have all of this information saved on a Word document. So that way, when I go into those long, tedious applications, all I have to do is copy, which is Control, which is that CTRL down there in the bottom left corner, Control C. So I highlight it. Oh, it's not letting me highlight on here, sorry. I highlight it and Control C, or you can, right click it, and then you'll see where you can scroll down and you'll see that copy option. And you just copy it, then you go back to the application, you'll go back to that website, go back to the application, and then again, right click it, scroll down till you see that paste option, or Control V. And then it'll paste it right there. So you don't have to retype all that information. You don't have to go back to your notes and see what you wrote. You don't have to Google, where was that job? Who was I working with? You don't have to call and text the lady you used to work with. Who was our hiring supervisor? Who was our manager? You have all of it in one place. So it saves you a lot of time, and you're able to apply for more jobs that way. And it just creates less stress. So that way it makes it a more pleasurable experience. So when I said format, this here is one of the things I'm talking about. So when it says date of birth, and let's say everyone does dates of birth different. Some people use dashes. This here is called, what are those lines called? Slashes, I guess. This here is using slashes. Some people type out the actual month, the actual name itself. Or if it's if your birthday is in September, like mine is, then you may not put you may just put 9/19/91. Well, in this particular one, they want you to put the month. The month has to have 2 numeral digits. So it's 09. So even though that there's not 2 numbers inside my actual month, they want you to put 2 there. So you're going to put 09. And then here, the same thing for day. If your birthday is on the 7th, then you don't just put 7, you got to put 07. And the same thing with the year. Even though I was born in 91, they want you to put 1991, as well as they want you to use those different slashes. So you can't use dashes. You can't type it in how you want to. You have to put it inside the format that the system allows. Otherwise, it won't allow you to go to the next step. It won't allow you to go to the next box, or you'll fill out the whole application and it'll come back and pop up these red boxes, or it'll put asterisks next to them and say, hey, correct these. And you're like, but I put in my date of birth. Like, how can they tell me my date of birth is wrong? A lot of the time it's because of the format. So pay attention to anytime they ask for date of birth or they ask for something, and it may be a tricky situation, look to see what they have in parentheses, either next to it or underneath the box. Or sometimes when you get it wrong, it'll flash to the right or left of the box to just show you, hey, you got the format wrong. So I know that that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see a lot of the time. Oh, and then also, let me go back. And then also, I know a lot of times when we type, sometimes I know naturally, like if I'm typing my last name, then I'll naturally, I'll just put a space after the last letter because I'm used to typing, you know, sentences. But then I'll notice that it'll go back, it'll be say, hey, I did something wrong. So if you put a space sometimes in front of a word, or if you put a space after a word, sometimes that will cause your information not to take. It'll allow you not to go to the next box, or it'll allow, or it'll come back and pop up red saying something's wrong. So make sure that you don't have any spaces before the first letter inside the box, and make sure that you don't have any spaces following. And when I say don't have any spaces following, I mean in like if you press space, press backspace. So you can have empty space after your name. That doesn't necessarily, you don't have to fill up the entire box, but make sure that you don't press the actual space bar after you've completed the word that you were trying to type. And again, if someone needs help with that or any additional assistance, just let me know. I'll be more than glad to try to do a live version of what I'm talking about, because I know that sometimes talking about it and saying it doesn't always help describe exactly what it is that you need to do. So different things you can do to spot a scam. So one, just be cautious if a company doesn't have an online presence. So it's kind of odd sometimes if a company, if they have an online application but don't have an online presence. That can be kind of odd. So if you are applying on, let's say, Indeed, and you're like hesitant about a job, Google them. Google the name of the company and see what comes of it. And then just make sure that all of the information aligns. So make sure that the address that they have provided on the application is the same address that you see that they have listed online. Make sure that the phone numbers match. If you see contact information, make sure look for typos and grammatical errors, because sometimes people will go this step further and they'll create a fake website, a spoofing website. So just look for those typos and the grammatical errors, because a lot of the times they have to create those sites quickly because they do get people do report them, and then they have to be removed, or the internet removes them, or they pop up as spam and different things like that. So a lot of times they move fast. So in moving fast, or a lot of the times these companies, those fake companies, are not necessarily local, so they may be from different countries. So look for those typos and those grammatical errors, because it won't read fluently, or some of the words will be spelled incorrectly. And you have to think that anytime that a company has a true online presence, then that means that they're going to do their due diligence and take their time, because it costs money to make a website. So anyone that did their due diligence in creating a website, they're going to make sure that not only that it flows and that it's giving the information that people need, but they're going to look for those typos and those grammatical errors. Be hesitant if they ask for your personal information. So in the very beginning, it is very rare that they're going to ask for your bank account information or your social security number. Now, I do know that some jobs will, and in those cases, if you're not familiar with that company or if you're hesitant, then call them, reach out to them, email them, and just verify that that information is correct. And again, you can typically find someone that works in HR or that works for the company on LinkedIn, or just Google and see what you can find on their website just to verify. And then if the position sounds too good to be true, then chances are it's too good to be true. If someone is telling you, hey, you can work from home and just check my emails and I'm going to pay you $100,000, chances are then it's too good to be true. I mean, I'm not saying that no one is doing that, but there's very, 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 very few opportunities that you'll find like that. So if you find that it just doesn't sound right, like, oh, this sounds like an amazing job paying great money where I have to do very minimal work, do your due diligence and your research at that point to make sure that it is an authentic job posting. And some of the famous scams to look for is the nanny. And they typically do the nanny or the babysitter, and that's because they're typically trying to target either older people or younger people that don't have a lot of experience. So with the nanny one, they're going to tell you, hey, I'm moving to the area. I need a nanny. When I move there, I need to go ahead and already have like food. I need to go ahead and pay the landlord and different things like that. So they're like, I'm going to send you a check to go ahead and pay for these different things for me. And then also go ahead and take your money out of that as well. So they send you a check, and then you go to the bank and you cash the check, and you take that money and you pay the landlord, and you buy the groceries, and at this point, and you pay yourself. And at this point now, you're just waiting for the person to say, hey, they're coming to town, so that way you can get the groceries. Well, what happens is this is a whole scam. And like I said, the landlord is normally in on it as well. The landlord isn't real, as well as the position isn't real. And because you cashed this check, chances that you had to cash a check against your account. So the money came out of your account. So if you're saying, hey, I didn't have any money in my account, that doesn't matter. They can still pull the money out of your account. And then once the check bounces, which is what's going to happen, once the check bounces, then your account is going to go into the negative, and you're the one that's on hold for that. And the money that you sent to the landlord is the money that the person now has. They have their money. And so that's where the scam comes in, and that's how they get to take your money from you. Anything revolving around an employer who asks the employee to wire money somewhere. So anytime that there is a question of wiring money, especially in the initial stages of your job, and you haven't met anyone, you haven't physically sat down in a seat, you have not gone to that company and physically sat there, and you haven't received any, you haven't received a couple of paychecks already, no one should be asking you to wire money initially. If that is what the job requires, I would say find something else. And then you have spoof websites. So these are websites that are made up to mimic the real ones. So Craigslist is one of those. So Craigslist.org is the official site, but you might find a Craigslist.net. And sometimes in searching for it, you may come across the spoof website. So it's important to make sure that you are paying attention to that dot part at the end. So like with our organization, we are a nonprofit. So typically nonprofits are going to have the .org, O-R-G. Anytime you're working with an official government site, then it's going to say .gov, G-O-V. And then you have the other ones, the more common, .com, C-O-M. And then you have a couple of authentic .nets, but it's been my experience that most .nets, which is that N-E-T, are spam, or they are scams. So I typically steer clear of those. And anytime I go on a website and I'm just kind of leery or hesitant because it just doesn't look quite right, I go to look if they are endorsed on BBB. I look for that BBB endorsement badge. Or I go to the BBB website and I type in the name of that company and see if anyone else has reported them. there's another website too that you can go on. And I do this even when not only applying for jobs, because you're giving them your personal information. And not to mention you're applying time to something that you want to make sure yields something. But I also do this when I'm purchasing. So sometimes, I'm like, oh, I can get this here for like $50 cheaper. And I get excited, but it's not always an authentic website. And they're just trying to steal your credit card information and cause a whole bunch of problems and headaches for you later. So I take my time, go to BBB, search the name, and see what anyone else is saying. All right, and then we kind of touched on this, so I'll just kind of speed through this one. But then connect with someone. So it's always important to try to get to know someone inside that organization, especially the human resource department or a manager who can get that application pulled, or that can like I said, endorse you, or even give you suggestions on pointers. So they may not be able to actually help get you get your information pulled, but they may actually be able to help you stand apart from everyone else and tell you exactly what their employer or what that position requires and entails. And then that'll allow you to tailor your resume and your cover letter to fit the exact needs of that organization. And then sometimes they ask you, do you know anyone inside that company? And they use that. So inside the application, it's like, hey, did anyone refer you to this position or something like that? It's always great to have a name right there, because that means that that person is almost endorsing you. But make sure you get confirmation that the person is comfortable with you using their name, because you don't want to start off on the wrong foot inside of a job position. Because a lot of times that people will go back and ask them, hey, do you know this person? Let's see here. And like I said, you can go on LinkedIn. The pro tip there is you can just go on LinkedIn and you can look for people as well as companies and look who works inside that company. Like I said, if you need help or assistance with how to do that, just let me know. Oh, and then also do a Google search on your name. See what pops up. Because a lot of companies are starting to do not just regular background checks to see what comes up in your criminal history, but they're starting to look on these Facebook pages, look on your LinkedIn page and your other social medias to see what type of individual you are, to see if you're going to meet the culture of the company, because that's one of the most important pieces of having someone successful inside of a role. So make sure you are aware of what's popping up on Google about yourself, as well as make sure that you are conscious about the things that you post on your social media and how that could be portrayed, especially when you're looking for a job. Or make sure that you keep your stuff private and that you only allow friends to see your posts, and that you're mindful of who you are allowing to comment or to see your page and be your friends on these different social media sites. Because they do have fake pages. So it's not going to say that Dollar General is looking at your post and they're liking your post and looking at your page. They're going to have someone with the Cindy is the one looking at your page, and she works for Dollar General, and she may not have that listed because they're trying to be sneaky in this process, and they don't want you to know necessarily that they're trying to befriend you to see what it is going on your page. So just be extremely cautious. All right, and then here, some of the final tips are, before you submit it, always review, and that's just, self-explanatory. But don't just be so anxious and such in a rush to just press submit. Take your time and kind of look over it. If you're able to, have a second pair of eyes, look over the application. I know I do this in papers, applications, pretty much everything. Because other people not only can bring a different perspective, but they can also, they see things from a different lens. Or if you've been looking at something for so long, it has now become normal to you, and someone else can be like, that's not, like, you may have read it correctly, but in your mind, but that's not what it physically says. So having a second or a new pair of eyes look at it, they can sometimes catch things that you've now overlooked. And you can also read the application backwards for misspelled words. So that's something that I learned in college. When our brains are trained to see words and automatically put a word with the spelling that we see, regardless if the spelling is absolutely correct, we can just kind of overlook it. And so sometimes it's best to read backwards. So that way it tricks your brain into really focusing on the word that you see at hand, and you're able to see then if the word is spelled correctly. Print off your application to keep for a record. This is important because remember, you've applied for several different jobs and you've tailored each application to each job. So you're a specialist on Monday, you're a data analysis on Tuesday, and you are a coordinator on Wednesday. You want to make sure that you keep up with what you've told each company. So always print off the application and make sure you have the name of the company. And I also like to also put when I applied for that position. I like to put that on there as well. And if you don't have access to a printer, then you can always save it as a PDF on your computer. And again, that's left click, and then you should be able to scroll down and you should see a save option. Or even you can try to access if you're going to print it. And then on that box that says like what printer you want to choose, you should see a PDF option. Scroll down, pick the PDF option, and then it will save it to your computer. So that way you can go back and reference it whenever that job calls you and say, hey, we want to do an interview. Because you want to make sure that everything you said on the application aligns with what you're going to say during the interview process. So you can use that to go back and study for your interview. Reach out to HR if you don't hear from the company in 2 weeks. So don't just assume that you're not qualified and that they're not interested in you. Call them. The worst thing that they're going to tell you is no. And if you didn't call, your answer was no already. So get comfortable with rejection. Don't allow it to hurt your feelings. Don't take it personal. Just because that wasn't the job for you doesn't mean that there isn't another one for you. All you need is one yes. And that's just how I like to look at everything. All you need is one yes. So call them or email them or go see them and see where, check the status of your application, and just be very nice and pleasant and polite, regardless if they tell you no, because that's your first interaction with them a lot of the times, and they're going off of your behavior. So even if you don't get the information or get the news that you're looking for, still be pleasant, because they're going to hire again. And just because you weren't suited for that position doesn't mean that you're not suited for another one, or it doesn't mean that you're going to be the better candidate the next go round. And ask why sometimes, like if you don't mind me asking why, because you want to make yourself, even if you don't choose to apply with that company again, you want to see if maybe all the same companies are saying the same things about you. So that way you can know to work on that, not only during your resume and your cover letter, but also it could be just with your approach with what you're doing and what you're saying. So feedback is always important. And make sure that you have a stable connection. So the worst thing you can do is, let's say if you don't have internet at home and you are applying at a coffee shop or McDonald's or somewhere, and you get all the way through it and then you lose your connection. That is the worst feeling, because now you have to do the entire application over, unless you did like an auto save. So make sure that you consistently save your application throughout the process, if that's possible, because it's not always possible. But when it's possible, make sure that you're consistently pressing save. And if not, make sure, if you know it's a lengthy application, make sure that you're doing it somewhere where that you're going to have a stable connection. Or make sure you use the hotspot on your phone, so that way there won't be any break in the connection at all. As well as sometimes you're sharing your personal information. You don't always want to be on a public network, because you don't want people to steal your information off the internet. And then lastly, remember your logins. So it's very important because a lot of the times in doing an online application, you have to create a profile. And so that means you have a user ID and you're going to have a password. And to go in to edit or to even check your status, or to even apply for other positions inside that same company, you're going to need to have that login information. So make sure that you keep that handy. I typically like to copy and paste my username and my passwords, and I like to email them to myself. So that way, no matter where I am in the world, I can always go to my Gmail and I can just pull up. And now, of course, I'll put in the search bar, the name of that company. I can search the name of that company and it takes me directly to that email, so I'm able to pull up that login information. Or if you're doing it from your phone these days, your phone saves that information, so you can always go and retrieve it through your phone if you go to the settings and then go to passwords, and you'll see the username and the password there, and you can write it down, or just old school it out and you can just write it down on the sheet of paper and make sure you just keep up with it to reference later. But that was pretty much all I have. And like I said, I can definitely go in depth on some things if people were interested. If anyone had any specific questions, I'll be more than glad to answer those. But that's the gist of it. And hopefully you all were able to get something that you were able to use. All right, so I do see that someone, and so I can email this presentation. Let me write this down. If anyone's interested, if you're interested in receiving an email, just put your email address in the chat and I'll copy that down. And if you don't know how to use the chat, raise your hand, and then you can unmute yourself, and then I can get it that way. Or you can just email me, because everyone should have my email on here. You can just email me, and then just let me know, like, hey, Jasmine, send me the presentation. And then also I'm going to just drop in the chat as well.
Hey, Janice, we don't have anything in the chat as of now.
Okay. Yeah, that was someone sent it to me privately.
Okay, got you.
Asking for that.
Okay.
And I want to put my email in here just in case if someone doesn't have it and they're interested in receiving the information. All right, but again, so I'll stay on here probably for another minute or so, but are there any questions? Is there anything that I need to clarify, anything that anybody wanted to add? Because this is also a forum where, of course, I don't know everything about the process. So if someone else has something that they wanted to add or chime in to bring to the table, we'll be more than glad to take that information as well. All right, I guess that's everything then. All right, Audrey, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
No, I'm good. Thank you, Jazz.
Okay. Well, then, other than that, before we let you go and we thank you, I want to let you know about our low voltage program. So if you know anyone that is currently out of work, or they are working but they're just looking for something different, we do have a low voltage skills training class coming up. I want to say that the interviews are next Monday. I could be making that up, y'all. But it's on our website. So you can go on our website and you can apply. So let people know. It is felon friendly and background friendly, as well as it's anyone that wants to do it. So it's for females and males. You do work hands-on. So you work 3 days in the field, as well as you do 1 day inside our an instructional classroom, which is virtual, and that's where you go through your financial literacy. You get some wellness therapy, you get some case management, and then you also get to work with the low voltage instructors there as well. So and there is a stipend that's combined, so the people are paid once a week while inside the program, and it's 4 weeks. So we highly encourage you to spread the word and let people know about this opportunity. As well as if you yourself are interested, we would love to have you. If you have any questions, again, that's my email. I'll be more than glad to go over that with you, whether it's about this or any of our upcoming programs. I'm trying to see, I think that's pretty much everything. So again, thank you. We appreciate you all for joining us today. I hope you were able to learn something and that you're able to take this information and share with someone else and tell them about our organization, because we would love to see you at some of our future events. Thank you. All right, and I want to go ahead and close this out, y'all.